Today is St Patrick's Day. St Patrick, born Maewyn Sacat, lived in 5th century Britain. Now, from the particular type of Gaelic that this name is derived from, we understand him to be from 5th century Wales, or as it was known then, Gwynedd. Revered as the patron saint of Ireland, he is their national apostle and known as a beloved Christian missionary. St Patrick is famous for driving the snakes out of Ireland, or freeing the land of Serpentine. Since we know undoubtedly that through fossil records there have never been any snakes in Ireland, we must reasonably assume this to be a metaphor, or the story to be an allegory of sorts. So the logical conclusion I obviously came to was that these metaphorical snakes were used to describe pagans and the Druids. So to provide evidence for this relatively obvious conclusion, I actually did quite a lot of digging. The indigenous Irish remained relatively the same until the arrival of Western Europeans in the Bronze Age around 2800 BCE, predominantly from ancient Iberia. So in modern day, the Iberian Peninsula is occupied by Spain and Portugal. So let me delve into why this is so relevant to this story. Recent DNA analysis shows that most Celtic people have an Iberian genealogy. Now, the Iberians who ingratiated themselves into Ireland would be the people that St Patrick allegedly expelled from the lands. So who were these people? What did they believe? And where do snakes come into it? Well, let me attempt to explain. The serpent in Christian mythology is of course a symbol of deceit, evil, devoid of soul, the lurker of temptation, shall we say. However, before the arrival of Christianity, this was not always the case. Pre-Christian tribes all across Europe and even in ancient Greece worshipped serpents and dragons. Christian saints are often depicted as slaying these creatures in battle. The pagan concept of serpent worship is one of rebirth, in context to the shedding of its skin and the alleviation of sin and rejuvenation. It was also a powerful symbol of protection and fertility. It's noted by the Greeks that the Iberians that invaded Ireland, their territory was known as Oficia, which is now North Portugal. This translates directly to Land of Serpents. Their main predominant god was a serpent of wisdom. So the ancient Ephesian pagans successfully invaded and conquered parts of Ireland, and the Romans actually never did, mainly because they couldn't get past the Scottish or the Welsh to get there. Now, when it comes to Christian missionary and the fact that history is of course written by the victors, we should perhaps take into account that the church has always been about politics. The idea of a papacy itself is incredibly anti-Christian, as is the monetary greed of the Vatican, for example. So, with that in mind, the stories of patron saints are often grandiose, to the benefit of the church. You could call that idolatry, which, ironically, is a sin. Fables and allegories of St Patrick ridding Ireland of snakes is an obvious metaphor for the cultural genocide of the Ephesians. However, there was no immersive battle, as there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Christian missionaries existed before and after St Patrick. It was a long, arduous struggle to eradicate paganism from Ireland, actually. Lots of pagan beliefs were interweaved with Christianity. For example, the pagans and Druids, they venerate nature. So the shamrock was used instead of the cross, as they already believed in a trinity. So I'll leave you with a quote from a very good historian called Chris Durham. He says, "Christianity did not destroy paganism, it merely adopted it." As always, thank you for listening. Love, peace and blessings.